Good morning, everyone. How's everyone doing? It's another live with Selvi. I can't believe how quick again the time has gone. Unfortunately, last week I had some training, so I couldn't do a live, so sorry about that. But I hope you've all been keeping well. My guest today is the wonderful Mark Catchlove. I'm just about to add him. Bear with me. Let me just add him. Hey, Katie. Hi, Lucy. Hi, Jason. Hi, Ed. Hi, Mark.
Hi there, just setting up my technology, which is when it's a phone, it's never as easy. But hey,
No, I completely understand. No problem at all. It's so nice to have you on my show. Thank you so much for being my guest.
thank you very much for inviting me. I'm honoured. I've seen you've had some very esteemed people, so it's nice to be counted amongst them.
Oh, not at all. Oh, well, you're joining the club. There you go. So you're just as special. How have you been, Mark?
And
How have you been
I'm
keeping?
fine, and I'm absolutely fine. But I really have had pretty much enough of working from home in between two building sites, which is never easy. The house next door is being ripped to bits, and the house two doors away. So this working from home stuff's never quite what everyone thinks it is.
Absolutely. I mean, it does have its positives, but then, yeah, it's true. It's funny when I go into London. So I go into London maybe a couple of times a week. I actually feel the difference. I really do. Just kind of like having that human contact, it makes a world of difference to how you're feeling. So it's really, it's really nice to be able to work from home, but at the same time, I think we need people. So let's see how things pan
Yeah,
out.
and I'm normally flying every other week as well, so that's kind of weird. Not only to be working at home, but to be working in one place all the time. It's very odd.
Absolutely.
But hey, I've got a job, and I love doing what I'm doing, so I need to ensure I'm grateful.
This is it,
Uh,
100%.
Absolutely,
100%. We can always try and think of things that we kind of don't like, but exactly, we need to be grateful for the small things, isn't it? So.
absolutely.
But yeah, no, Mark, we're really excited to get to know you a bit better and like find out a bit about yourself and kind of then we're going to move on to your topic of choice, which is the fundamentals of the workplace. So we're
Okay.
looking forward to hearing about that. So my first question to you, Mark, is what's one thing you wish you had known when you began your career?
I think the thing that sticks in my mind is it's okay to ask for help. I think I actually started work at 16. I never went to university. I never did. So I was working as an export clerk typist at the age of 16. And I kind of walked in there thinking I had to know everything. And then as I moved through doing stuff, just ask for help. Most people want to help because it benefits them if you do a good job. So the one thing is make sure you ask for help and find out who. One of the things I say now actually, it's no longer who you know, and it's no longer what you know. It's who knows what you need to know.
That's very true.
and I, so and I know you do this. You've connected to a network. Ask for help. Someone out there. What's the worst can happen? Someone might say no. Just ask for help. That's one of the big things for me.
Absolutely, Mark. Spot on. Yeah, I totally agree with you. It's true. What is the worst that can happen? And just put yourself out there. It shows initiative. It does. It shows assertiveness if you just go out there and get what you need. So absolutely, this is how you grow as well because you learn from talented people like yourself who have loads more experience than us. Like we're but novices. So there you go. Absolutely, absolutely. So, Mark, what is your biggest failure and what did you learn from it?
I've been in the furniture industry for over 35 years, and I think my biggest failure, I would call it a regret, but it was just taking a job for the money and for no other reason than the cash that was being offered me. And literally, the morning I walked into that job, I knew I'd made a huge mistake. At the time, I was working at Vitra before then, having a great time. Um, Great company to work for. They didn't pay the biggest wages, and I got offered a lot more cash. Crazy decision. Literally, I tell you, I walked in that morning and knew that it was a big mistake. And money's always going to be important, but we always talk about the balance between passion and money. And crazy decision. one of my biggest regrets. And I actually did manage to go back to Vitra for another few years, so that's pretty amazing. So it worked out in the end.
Oh, mate, I'm glad to hear it worked out. Wow, that would have been really tough. You had to stay somewhere that you didn't like enjoy. Gosh, it's
Yeah,
true.
it was tough,
It's normal as
very
humans,
tough.
like we want to kind of do better financially, don't we? But yeah, like you said, there's that payoff, there's that balance between, happiness at work and kind of pay. And so yeah, no, absolutely, I really agree with that. Okay, so what advice would you give someone wanting to pursue a career similar to yours?
I think try to look for a network, and I tell you, you guys are more network. When I say you guys, I mean you kids, you youngsters. Remember when I got into this world, there were very little networks. But use your networks, whether that's your Facebook contacts, your family. Find out who's around this industry, because there's got to be someone, and then try and observe them. See, chat to them, find out what it is they did, how did they get into it, what do they like. But I think there's a lot of observing others, and for me, I kind of come from a sales background, but my role now is not frontline sales. It's very much kind of promoting Herman Miller, and so it's just expressing a desire to do what I do continually. Can I do this? Can I do this? Can I do this? And eventually they say, yes, you can do this. So, but do lots of observing, and network wherever you can. You never know. And by the way, try not to burn bridges,
Oh, there you go. See, that's very
because
true.
you never know when you might need someone to help you through your career as well.
100%, 100. I really, fully agree with that. Definitely, because you don't know when you're going to pass that person, and especially in our industry, it's such a small industry, isn't it? That most people know most people. So
You're absolutely right, and I always say you either are work. If you go to a restaurant in Clerkenwell, for instance, you're sitting near someone you used to work with, you are working with, or you're going to work with very soon. So it is a very small world, but use those networks. I have some good buddies in the industry who are competitors, and I'll give them a bloody nose when we're up against them in a project, but I'll buy them a drink. You never know when you might need those networks.
100%. And I think as well, what I've actually found quite useful in this climate is actually, like you said, communicating even with your competition, because sometimes it's not worth going for a job or a project if you know that someone else has a stronger relationship with that client.
I kind of,
Apologies.
ch-
So
yeah. Sorry, I keep losing you. I don't know if
sorry.
you're.
Can you see me now?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, you're back again. Yeah, fine.
Apologies. I just had a phone call.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, the joys of technology. So sorry about
yeah.
that.
Don't worry. Yeah, I do think there is always that chasing a no hoper to death thing that So, but yeah, keep in touch with your network. If anyone wants to join our world, one thing I would say, it's not an easy world compared to what it was when I joined. I have to tell you that it's a blooming tough world, but
It really is.
it's fun, and I love doing what I do.
Oh, that's so nice to hear. I really love that. I love that. So my next question is, what are the best resources that have helped you along the way?
Do you know what? A lot of people are missing them. It is conferences, I have to say. I have learnt so much from attending conferences, bad ones and good ones. Listening, because my role now is public speaking, and I think, and also gaining a lot of knowledge from those conferences as well. But that's been really useful. That's also given me networks. That's been a huge resource. So conferences in the physical world, but in the virtual world, Twitter has been amazing for me. I have made contacts, and I would call them friends now via Twitter, that I would never have made otherwise, particularly in the HR world. I've connected, and it's opened my mind to many new things. So, yeah, I am probably a bit too political on Twitter, and anyone that follows me will know that. But I have also learnt so much, and people share. People are really open. So if you want to, you can observe. You don't have to say anything, but do I want to say bleed other people's dry on Twitter, but there's some great people out there. Connect with them.
That's interesting. You said because you know Twitter is like literally it's just a one sentence platform. You've got a certain number of characters, and it's amazing. Like you're saying that you've made so many connections via Twitter.
Yeah, and it is. I mean, I've run a marathon on Twitter. We 26 of us did a mile each. Anyone knows me that knows I couldn't do will know that I couldn't do 26 miles. But we handed over every mile on Twitter, and we raised I don't know £5 for children in need. You know, those I've met artists. I've just done things that I would never have done if it had not been for Twitter. We've had events in our showroom that have purely come because of connections on Twitter. So Twitter's been a really useful resource, but I do love the physical world as well, which is why I miss conferences so much. I'm chairing workplace trends tomorrow from this room, and that's going to be weird.
Oh wow, that's amazing! Yeah, Workplace Trends is an amazing event. I've been to one actually in your showroom. In actual fact, the last one, the climate change one. It was very good, very good. Yeah, it's amazing. So, well, it's going to be a virtual Workplace Trends. I'm sure you'll do really well. I'm sure you'll be great on it because I've seen you on a webinar before, so you've got it covered. Okay, so my next question is, who are the 3 people or characters who have been the most influential to you?
Well, this is going to sound really strange, but one lady's called Auntie Joyce. And Auntie Joyce was a Sunday school teacher when I was sort of 12 to 16. And I come from a difficult background. I come from a pretty rough estate, and she believed in me. She encouraged me. She helped me. She supported me. She told me that I could achieve, and she was a great resource. Fed me, looked after me, took care of me in many ways. So that's one person. And then eventually I moved to the Northeast and I worked for a wallpaper company. I was a clerk typist, and I often share on one of my webinars a picture of me in that office. It was a wallpaper company. But our boss was a guy called Gordon Harrison. He was an export clerk. And bear in mind, I'd never been abroad before. He walked over to me and said, "Mark, I think you'd make a good salesperson. You're going to come on my next business trip."
Wow.
Okay, where are we going? Genoa, Athens, Thessalonica. You know, it was just astounding. And that guy, that year, I carried on being an export clerk, but often used to do trips. That guy made me think, actually, maybe I could do this. Maybe this is something that I could do, because by then I was already, doing public performances because I'm a bit of a singer as well.
Ah.
And then the other person is my father. I think, what sticks with me about my father is you treat a lord the same as you treat a pauper. My dad was a milkman, a coalman, a gravedigger, a fencer. You know, he did everything. He never treated anyone differently, and that's something I've tried to do. Sometimes it doesn't always work out, but that's, you never know. I wish sometimes would do that to me. I've been looking when I lived in East Ham. I came to where I live now, looking at houses, looking at a housing estate, and because we came from East Ham, the guy didn't think we could afford the house that we were looking at. I can remember thinking, you will never ever do well in this industry because you never know who your influencer is. So treat people the same.
100%. And also, like, you never know as well who that person knows.
Absolutely.
You never know who, and but it's also, I think it's the basic principles of being a human. Like, you should be loving and kind to everyone, really. It doesn't matter. Like, I totally agree with what you're saying, 100%. But that's really interesting.
Big life lesson.
Yeah. So that's really interesting about Auntie Joyce. So what is it that you remember the most about her? Like, what's the biggest thing that sticks about her?
Very straightforward. She told me off when I was naughty. So she was very honest, but she showed compassion and love and picked me up when I fell down and did things I shouldn't do. She was just kind in a very practical way, And she was a good listener. She was an incredibly good listener. And also, what I remember about it is she never took credit for anything. I know the church I was involved in, she influenced so many people's lives, but she was a diminutive little lady with a hunchback, which sounds really strange, but she did, and it was an amazing woman that did nothing for herself. It was always for other people. And that is, I wish I could emulate even half of some of that she brought to people.
Well, she sounds like an amazing woman. There you
She
go.
was.
There you go. Okay, so what is the one common myth about your profession or field that you want to debunk?
Yeah. Well, I come from a sales background, and I kind of get fed up of people saying, yeah, good salespeople have the gift of the gab. The gift of the gab and being able to talk is really a relatively small part. The thing that is the most important part of selling is listening. And I think that's always the challenge. And I still struggle to this day. I hear to listen rather than hear to reply. And that's difficult, but that's the biggest myth. It's not how good you talk, it's how well you listen.
I really agree with you. It's so true. I think like you can have that kind of personality part where, you know, you fit into kind of sales and, you know, like it's just natural to you to be able to be friendly and speak to people. But if you don't have the gift of or the ability to listen to what the information you're trying to glean, then there's a no go, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're not successful at all. Wendy just said, I really appreciated the insight Herman Miller gave me through their online living campus webinar. Thank you. So she's just saying thank you.
Pleasure. Glad we could help.
No, they're fantastic. Your webinars are so good. They really are. They're very informative and very original. I feel like sometimes, you know, there's a lot out there, isn't there, about the workplace and corona, and there's so many things that it can almost be kind of regurgitated, but yours is very original. I do really enjoy listening to yours, I must say.
Yeah, and plenty more coming up, and we've got some good guest speakers as well, and I think that's the other thing, is try and mix it up a bit.
Absolutely. No, thank you. So okay, if you could step into my shoes, what would you have asked yourself that I didn't?
That's a really I don't know if I can answer that one. That's one of the toughest ones. You sent me all the questions beforehand, and I looked at that and thought, I just hope she doesn't ask me that one. But are you honest and true to yourself? I think is the one thing. Are you Selvi that you want to be, or are you the Selvi that someone else wants you to be? Because you'll never keep it up if you're the Selvi that someone else wants you to be.
100%, yeah. And also, you won't enjoy it as well, will you? You won't enjoy.
No.
You can't possibly be someone you're not, because it won't last very long. No, absolutely.
Yeah. And that's one thing when I connected with the HR world, they started talking about authenticity and that whole idea of being yourself. Now, I'm a bit nervous about bringing your whole self to work, because if you're a miserable old soul, you don't really want to bring that to work. But so we do have to adapt, and we do, but that whole idea is be yourself. You know, there is only one Mark Catchlove, and everyone out there saying, thank heavens for that, you know, but that's the reality.
No, I wouldn't be so sure. That's not true. Okay, so where can our listeners connect with you online, Mark?
All over. I am an extrovert physically, but I'm an extrovert virtually. So I have an Instagram page, as you know. I am on LinkedIn, and probably too vociferous on LinkedIn as well, but have a lot to say on LinkedIn. I am on Twitter, and it's quite simply at Mark Catchlove, which is a pretty easy one. But the Herman Miller Insight Group also has a Twitter page, and the Insight Group of Herman Miller also has its own website, which is hminsightgroup.com as well. So lots of opportunities, and Facebook is for a chosen few. I keep that for my private world. So there's only a chosen few that connect with me on Facebook.
That's it. And everyone, if you've got any kind of requests or anything, Mark's more than happy for you to connect with him. So there's so many different platforms you can connect with him.
Absolutely.
Spot for choice there, aren't you?
Yeah.
Wendy's got a question. So she's saying, as you are primarily involved in public speaking now, what would you say is the most important consideration to be successful in this?
Um, it doesn't have to be perfect every time. I think that's why people don't do it. And the other thing is you practice and you practice and you practice and you practice. There is no alternative. And it's so much easier now. I record myself presenting to myself. And that is the only way. So it is, there's lots of other, I do lots of presentation training actually. Know your stuff, know your tech, and know your audience is my 3 bits of advice. You know, text is a real challenge. We had a huge disaster yesterday. We ended up with 160 on the call, but we started off with 20 because it all went wrong, you know. So do what you can, but know your stuff and also know your audience. You know, if I'm presenting to a group of university students, it's got to be a different message to a group of CEOs. So, or a different way of communicating. Hope that helps.
No, perfect. No, definitely. Fantastic answer. No, really, thank you so much. So now we're going to move on to, you wanted to speak about the workplace. So yeah, go for it.
Okay, yeah, there's a couple of things I wanted to say actually. I just wanted to say that at Herman Miller, we talk a lot about fundamental human needs. And there are some basic needs you need to meet in the workplace, and HR can meet them. The real estate can meet it, and so can tech. And they're things like belonging, purpose, autonomy, achievement, status, security. If you don't have those met, they're kind of, if one of them's down, you're kind of failing. And it's really important. And the one thing I think, there's 2 things out of those 2 that I think we are missing the most at the moment. Autonomy. And you go, yeah, but you can work from home. Yeah, but that's the only choice I've got. That is not autonomy. If anything we are suffering with at the moment is autonomy has been smashed on the head. And anyone that understands activity-based working or will know that autonomy is really key. That's one of those fundamental needs that we need to get back to. So again, when post-pandemic, make sure people do have choice. And the other thing is belonging. Really hard to have a sense of community. And yet the water cooler moments are overplayed. But look at all those people that are being onboarded during a during a lockdown, and they haven't met their colleagues. One of my colleagues in Poland has only met his other Polish colleague. You know, that's it. Out of a European team of 300 to 400, that's all he's met. And so belonging is really important. But do look at how are these needs being met physically, virtually, and also via tech. But the other thing I wanted to say is also highlight that Herman Miller recently has reviewed its purpose and values. And I want to tell you, these should not be just Herman Miller values. These should be, my colleagues have done a great job. And our purpose now is designed for the good of humankind. And that can really mean anything. So going back to the bit that you said about being kind, let's just be good for humanity. And that actually being people-centered started over 60 years ago, 70 years ago, when a designer showed a picture to our founder and said, what's the most important thing in this picture? And he said, oh, it's the apartment or that kind of thing. He said, no, it's the people in the apartment. That's what it is. And so design for the humankind. But these are our 3 values. First of all, be a difference maker. Whether that's to your colleagues, whether that's to your clients, and that's a pretty good life lesson, isn't it? Be a difference maker, but preferably for the positive, of course. The other thing is that we are all extraordinary. And again, our history shows us that sometimes maybe we haven't treated everyone as being extraordinary. But we are all extraordinary. Whoever that is, whoever that might be, we are all extraordinary. And then finally, because Herman Miller is now a family of brands, this is really important. We're all better together. We're never going to get through this on our own. We're a mixture of brands. And yes, Herman Miller has acquired, but we are learning so much from the other brands. You know, we acquired a company in the north called Nought One. We have probably learned more from them than we could ever teach them.
Wow.
So we are better together. So hopefully that's the kind of a little overview of how we're thinking. But be difference makers, We're all extraordinary, and we are better together.
Do you know what? That's amazing. Honestly, it's really refreshing to hear you speak like that, because we really need that kind of positivity nowadays. And I really agree. It's funny how you mentioned about autonomy, because so I started the first day of lockdown. So all my training was done online, and we had a training actually in our head office where we all met everyone, and there's just a different facet to everything, like meeting your colleagues face to face. I think virtually, it doesn't matter how much you try, you can't get that from face to face, not at all. You can't get that sense of community at all. So yeah, no, definitely, I really agree with that. But no, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I hope that's been useful for you.
It's been extremely useful, Mark, and I'm sure our viewers are, really looking forward to all the webinars that you guys are going to be releasing. And so where can we get details from that? Is that on your website? And
yeah, so if you go to hminsightgroup.com,
yeah,
and then on there it says Herman Miller events, and you can click, and but we've got about 5 webinars booked before the end of the year, including Neil Usher, and our archivist from Herman Miller in the US is sharing lots of our archives. We have a guest speaker who is going to be talking about managing remote teams and the challenge women have over men working remotely. So I thought that's quite an interesting view there. So do have a look. hminsightgroup.com.
Amazing. That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Mark. Well, that has been really interesting and informative, and I'm sure all our viewers are really grateful to you for sharing all that knowledge.
Okay. Can I leave you with one quote, if I may?
Yeah.
This is my favorite quote from the founder of Herman Miller, a guy called DJ Dupree.
Yeah.
He called it Herman Miller because his father-in-law was called Herman Miller, and he lent him the money to buy the company.
Oh, wow.
So always keep him with your rich in-laws. But he said this many years ago. He said this, that in the long run, businesses and business leaders will not be judged on their products or their profits, but on their impact on humanity. And I want to leave that with you guys and suggest you go out and have a really good impact on humanity.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Mark. I love that. Well, I've loved chatting to you today, Mark. I really hope you want to come back on another live in the future.
I will do that, definitely.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And thanks to everyone listening, and thanks for your comments. And we'll see you next week for another round of Life with Selvi. So take care. Have a good week.
Take care, Selvi.
Bye.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Bye.